Oh my God. And I'm done. Good night, ladies and gentlemen.
Dolls have been a significant element in horror movies, evoking fear and unease due to their uncanny and lifelike appearances. They have been used in various cultures for rituals and as representations of people. For example, voodoo dolls are believed to hold the power to affect individuals through sympathetic magic. These cultural beliefs have laid a foundation for the fear associated with dolls. Gothic literature often included eerie, animated objects, including dolls. E.T.A. Hoffman's The Sandman from 1818 introduced the idea of an automaton that could pass for a human, blending the line between animate and inanimate, a theme that resonates in modern horror. Sigmund Freud's concept of the uncanny describes the discomfort caused by something familiar yet foreign. Dolls, especially those resembling humans, sit in this unsettling space. Their almost human appearance, but lifelessness, creates a sense of unease. Dolls are typically associated with childhood innocence. Their corruption or animation in horror movies subverts this innocence, creating a powerful contrast that enhances fear. Films like The Great Gabo, 1929, and Dead of Night, 1945, featured ventriloquist dummies and mannequins, playing on fears of inanimate objects coming to life. These early examples set the stage for dolls as a horror motif. The 1970s saw the rise of psychological thrillers and supernatural horror. Magic, 1978, featured a ventriloquist's dummy that seemed to possess a life of its own, while Trilogy of Terror, 1975, included a Zuni doll that came to life and terrorized its owner. These films capitalized on the aforementioned psychological factors.
Hi, I'm Chucky.
He's something, isn't he?
This is Andy's.
In the 1980s, possessed by the spirit of a serial killer, Chucky became an iconic figure in horror, blending slasher elements with the inherent creepiness of a doll. The idea for Chucky was partly inspired by the popularity of dolls like Cabbage Patch Kids and My Buddy dolls in the 1980s. These widely popular toys had a certain charm that, when subverted, created an eerie contrast perfect for horror. Dolls can fit into various subgenres of horror, from supernatural to psychological to slasher films. This versatility allows filmmakers to explore different aspects of fear and suspense using dolls as central elements. In the 21st century, the rise of social media and computer-generated imagery took the horror movie experience to new levels in Hollywood. Writers struggled to find their new horror villain icon, as they just remade prior stories that fell short and failed to draw viewers into the genre. It wasn't until 2013 that an old story of a paranormal doll came into focus. Based on the recounts of investigators Ed and Lorraine Warren, the lore of Annabelle the doll shook the core of the horror genre. The film was titled The Conjuring. Annabelle was introduced to the horror genre in the opening scenes of The Conjuring, where the Warrens recount the story of the doll. The real Annabelle is a Raggedy Ann doll, quite different from the porcelain doll depicted in the films. The story of Annabelle is rooted in the experiences reported by Ed and Lorraine Warren, famous paranormal investigators. In 1970, a nursing student named Donna received the Raggedy Ann doll from her mother as a birthday gift. Soon after, Donna and her roommate Angie noticed strange occurrences involving the doll. The doll would change positions, and notes written on parchment paper would appear, though no parchment paper was kept in the apartment. Concerned for their safety, Donna and Angie contacted the Warrens. The Warrens concluded that the doll was not possessed by a human spirit, but by a demonic entity manipulating them.
A nurse had received the doll, 1971, as a present, a Christmas present from her mother. And the doll stands about 3 foot high, and she would take it to bed with her at night. That's common enough for girls to do. She lived with another girl who was a nurse. They were on the same shift, and so they worked together, they lived together, they shared the expenses. And one morning she got this idea to bring the doll from the bedroom into the kitchen where they were having breakfast, and she put it in a chair. They're talking to the doll, and the arms of the doll are on the chair like this. Suddenly they went up and onto the table. Now this didn't frighten them. This intrigued them. One of the nurses knows a medium. Let's ask her about this. I'll bet you there's a spirit in that doll. That's what they did. So now the woman holds a seance, and she said, there's a spirit of a 6-year-old girl in that doll who was killed in an automobile accident just outside of your apartment house here. Well, there was a 6-year-old child by the name of Annabelle who was killed. But God does not allow the spirit of a child to go into a doll. This was a demon who was posing as that little child to create sympathy to these 2 young women. They would take it for rides. They'd talk to it. They'd buy clothing for it, jewelry. They treated it just as though it was that little girl who was killed, Annabelle. Soon after the first seance, things would happen in their house, what we refer to as infestation. There would be knocking sounds. They'd see flashing lights in their bedroom at night, shooting across the room. The bed would shake a little bit. It would get icy cold. They'd hear whispering, which we call magic whispering. They'd come home after midnight, put the key in the door, unlock the door, and who do you think is standing there? The Raggedy Ann doll.
Standing there.
Now, that doll has flimsy legs.
Yeah.
If you try to stand it up, you can't. But I've seen that doll stand. I've seen a lot of things happen around that doll. But one of the fiancés of one of the girls was against all of this. He said, burn the doll, throw it away, get rid of it. It's evil. Well, he falls asleep one afternoon. He wakes up with a start. He said, my God, what a nightmare. He said, I dreamt that that doll was strangling me. He had marks on his throat. He gets up, he looks at the doll in the chair, picks it up, and throws it right across the room. You're nothing but a rag doll. You couldn't hurt anyone. With that, Tony, 7 psychic slashes appear on his body.
Wow.
Now, we've seen these kind of slashes. We've filmed them. These slashes come from nowheres. The blood came right through his shirt. The nurses witnessed this. Then, a huge chair rolled across the room. Pictures on the walls came off, started smashing and breaking. Loud pounding sounds. Now they were all frightened. They called the High Episcopal Canon in Hartford, Connecticut. He called Father Richard Nolan, an exorcist, and Father Nolan called us.
They took Annabelle to their museum in Monroe, Connecticut, where it sits to this day, encased in a glass box, both as a real-life artifact and a cinematic character. She represents the intersection of folklore, paranormal investigation, and horror storytelling. Her story, enriched by the Warrens' accounts and dramatized in film, continues to captivate and terrify audiences, ensuring her place as a staple in horror culture. Robert the Doll. The doll was given to Robert Eugene Otto, often referred to as Gene, by a Bahamian servant who was said to be skilled in voodoo and black magic. Gene named the doll after himself and formed a strong attachment to it. He dressed the doll in his own clothes and took it everywhere. Soon after receiving the doll, Gene's parents and household staff reported unusual events. Gene would talk to the doll and, at times, the doll would seemingly respond in a different voice. Objects would be found moved or overturned, and Gene would claim Robert did it. Gene Otto retained Robert throughout his life, and the doll was said to cause discord in his marriage. After Gene's death in 1974, his wife moved the doll to the attic, where it remained until the property changed owners. Robert the doll was eventually donated to the East Martello Museum in Key West, where he has been on display since 1994. Museum staff and visitors continue to report eerie experiences. Cameras and electronic devices often malfunction around the doll, and some visitors claim to experience misfortune after mocking and disrespecting Robert. Robert the doll has been the subject of numerous television programs, documentaries, and articles, contributing to his notoriety as one of the most haunted dolls in the world. Visitors are advised to be respectful and to ask Robert's permission before taking photographs. Some believe that failure to do so can result in various misfortunes. He remains a popular and eerie attraction, drawing the interest of paranormal enthusiasts and curious visitors alike. Dolls have become a mainstay in the horror genre due to their historical, psychological, and cultural significance. Their uncanny resemblance to humans, combined with the potential for subversion of innocence, makes them a potent symbol of fear. From early cinema to modern horror franchises, dolls continue to captivate and terrify audiences, securing their place in the pantheon of horror icons. Another trend that has become popular in the 21st century is the rise of paranormal behavior of dolls, documented on popular social media sites such as TikTok and YouTube. The fear of dolls, known as pediophobia, taps into deep-seated psychological anxieties. Haunted dolls amplify these fears by combining lifelike innocence with malevolent intent, creating a powerful and enduring archetype in horror. The future of dolls in horror movies will likely be shaped by technological advancements, psychological depth, and innovative storytelling. These elements will keep the subgenre fresh and continue to captivate audiences with new and terrifying doll-related horrors.